All right. Welcome back to Transparency and Merit. It is a Wednesday night in Los Angeles, California. I'm Jewish. I'm Joe. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish producer, but you can call me Joe. And we got Brian here also. Brian, what's going on tonight?
So, two of the Proud Boys, I don't know if this happened yesterday or today, but two of the Proud Boys were sentenced to 4 years in prison. Proud Boy members Maxwell Hare and John Kinsman were convicted of attempted gang assault, attempted assault, and riot. Supreme Court Justice Mark Dyer said the sentencing was intended to deter future violence, saying, "I know enough about history to know what happened in Europe in the 30s when political street brawls were allowed to go ahead without any type of check from the criminal justice system." Now, the thing is about this attack, they attacked Antifa, and I don't know what Antifa did or if they had provoked the Proud Boys, but the one thing is, this case is rather unusual because the victims were not identified and did not testify. So they were convicted on assaulting victims that were not around, the victims did not press charges, and the victims were not identified. I don't know if you know much about court cases, but this seemed rather unusual to me.
What state was this
because
in?
This was in New York, and they only gave descriptions of the so-called victims. They did not. These victims refused to come forward. They did not give their names. And I mean, I've never heard of anything like this where people because these people are masked, and whether these people have a criminal history of attacking people in the past. And I'd like to read more up on that on this trial and see exactly what is transpiring, because and look, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a reporter. I'm just a person who's kind of a news junkie, a movie junkie, and a political junkie.
Both defendants faced as much as 15 years. They were convicted last August at trial of attempted gang assault, and riot stemming from October 12th. That's 1 year ago, 2018 melee. It's a shame when some people jump up and down on a platform, Dwyer said in an apparent reference to McInnes, and their followers, their soldiers, get in trouble. He added, "I'm not sure the most moral responsibility belongs to these two defendants."
Yeah. Well, like I've said, there are no. The fact of the matter is, there are no victims to come forward in this case.
This is rather odd.
And I've never heard of anything like this. I think it's kind of. I think they may be using, because if you're if the police charge you with domestic violence, they don't have to. The spouse doesn't have to agree to testify against you. But the thing of it is...
But if they said that they acted in self-defense and nobody had come forward...
yeah.
I'm not so sure. This sounds like a very strange case. To avoid confrontation, cops directed the Proud Boys west on 83rd Street, then south on Park Avenue. while they shepherded their opponents in the other direction. As the Proud Boys neared 82nd Street, they saw 6 suspected Antifa protesters, clad in black, headed towards them. Instead of walking away, the defendants and their pals sprinted more than 100 feet towards their foes, instigating the fight, Steinglass said. Steinglass. It might be my uncle. During the violent confrontation, Kinsman and Hare repeatedly punched, kicked, and stomped on the outnumbered and undersized Antifa members. The victims of the case were never identified, and Antifa refused to cooperate with the investigation. Who do they have, a headquarters? Prosecutors said that if they could have located the Antifa members, they would have also been charged. That makes no... So they just cherry-picked a couple people.
Yeah. This to me... I don't understand how you can charge someone without a victim. How can they be charged? I mean, it's one thing if Antifa members were attacking like innocent, unprovoked people, and they came, and these people were saying, "Hey, I want these people charged with assault," but there are no victims here. The group they attacked are a terrorist organization. Should be known, I think, as a terrorist organization. They're wearing masks, and I think they threw a bottle or something at the group, and they did respond. But like I said, this is the first time that I can remember where there are they're charged with assault, and there's no victim to testify, no physical, They have nobody. That doesn't.
I don't get it. So who pressed charges? This was the state, right?
Yeah.
Manhattan Supreme Court. Manhattan judge sentenced. But who was?
Yeah, I mean, and so there's no there's no physical so. Yeah, I mean, there's no people to press charges against. There's no bodies in the hospital or anything like that. So
the New York Times, the New York Post doesn't even allow comments on this.
Yeah, this is, what, folks, we'd like to know more about this case. If you have any comments about this, we'd like to just, hear from you, because this is really strange. I've never heard of this kind of thing before. I know in perhaps domestic violence cases, but there is a person who, there is a woman, if a woman calls the police and then she refuses to press charges. But I think that, that woman is in the thing that they assaulted. There's no name here of the people that were assaulted. I've never heard of anything like this before. This is rather unusual. So I think we want to keep abreast of this. I just want to take, like I said, I've never heard anything like this before. This is something rather new. Some of these guys have, and some of these Proud Boys have been had their jobs, have been fired from their jobs. They've been basically, the Proud Boys have been deplatformed from every kind of, just about every kind of public platform. And now they're being arrested for what seems to be self-defense. And as you said before, the New York Times doesn't even allow comments on this. And, who's pushing these stories? And can we have an open and honest discussion? I would love to have an open and honest discussion about how this thing transpired, why it transpired, and the like. I would love to discuss to see why allowing a terrorist group to provoke somebody, and what are the ranges of self-defense? I mean, to me, once you place a hand or threaten somebody with violence and put them in danger, however that person responds cannot equal what that other person just did. And like I said, there may be things about this case that I don't know enough about. I'm just saying that what I am observing of this looks rather strange. And it looks like it's, the kind of prosecution is, I've never seen this kind of prosecution before, where individuals are charged without victims.
I've never heard of that before either. I'm very curious now to figure out what kind of precedent there is for this. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and I'm always curious if this was. I wonder, had this been like a group of gay gentlemen and they were being harassed by a group of anti-gays who were harassing them physically, if they would have done the same thing. Is this selective enforcement against conservatives? And then these groups didn't come forward. Or if they were a group of Black Lives Matter, and a group was harassing Black Lives Matter in masks, and they were harassing them, and then the group of Black Lives Matter beat them up. And and then the group that got beat up didn't press charges and didn't want to be identified. What would happen then? This seems like very selective enforcement, and this is one of the things we're striving to make a film about white guilt, and this kind of selective enforcement kind of plays into that. What's going on here? How are individuals treated differently? Who people, all they have to do is claim white supremacy, even if they say they're against it. All they have to do is have guilt by association. Are other groups on the left? Are they getting away with things that other groups cannot get away with? It does look to me that the left gets away with things that the right could never get away with. And certain ethno groups or racial groups are allowed to get away with things that other groups, like are white, or what is known as so-called white groups, are not allowed to get away with. And it seems like selective enforcement all the way around. Could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. And I think we need to have this discussion and have this debate. And with that being said, is there anything else to add? And then Stabby has been in here. Stabby, I've been trying to get MM to call JLP. All right. Anyway,
welcome
Joe,
to the show, Stabby, and this has been Transparency and Merit. We do have a website, transparencyandmerit.com, but that's all. You have anything else? Any last words before we log out of here?
Just that follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, the Organization of Transparency and Merit.
I think on Twitter it's Cali OTM. We couldn't get Transparency and Merit. It was too long. So Cali OTM on Twitter, but you could find us just by hashtagging, just finding it.
And even if you think that we're telling lies, or if you think we're telling things that are incorrect, please let us know.
And if we're mumbling, just let us
know.
know.
And if we're mumbling, which I am known for the king of mumbles.
I think it's affected me. I think I'm now a part-time mumbler also. So thanks again for listening. I'm Joe. That's Brian. Tune in again to our next episode of Transparency and Merit.